The Chicago Bulls have just found their next star. While some of the Chicago Bulls players have gotten together for an intense week of workouts, there's one player in particular that has stood out the most and has not only have been predicted to have an amazing season come this one, but also a Hall of Fame career. Hello, my name is Isaias Jackson Jr. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Bulls Digest. We got to get into all the news and notes with this intense workout week and Matas Buzelis and the predicted Hall of Fame career that this man could potentially have. However, 67.5% of you guys are not subscribed, 32.5% of you guys are. We appreciate you guys on both sides of the field. And look, there was a huge trade that happened, and this is on the MLB side of the world. And let's just use that subscribe button down low as a good luck charm. Let's hope the Chicago Bulls, let's hope that rubs up on us. Let's see the Chicago Bulls pull off a blockbuster trade. Let's see some movement in the offseason. Let's just use that subscriber button as a good luck charm. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And also, thank you guys so much for tuning into Bulls Digest. Bulls Matas Buzelis comes out of LA workouts looking like the real deal. And you gotta love a title. You know, you gotta love an article that comes out swinging like that. The Chicago Bulls had a week-long intra-squad scrimmage / workout in Los Angeles earlier this month, and not only did Matas Buzelis look buffed up, but he played like a guy on the verge of a breakout to stardom. This is coming from Joe Cowley himself, and honestly, I'm hyped. You know, this just makes me so hyped, you know, to go on and look at Matas Buzelis. Of course, if you watched the Chicago Bulls throughout last season, you were already hyped with what Matas Buzelis has had. I mean, you've seen earlier in the season when you just pretty much a lot of fans begging and clamoring for Matas Buzelis to get more minutes. He then, of course, eventually starts when it's all said and done. And you've seen the run the Chicago Bulls went on, and you've seen the work that Matas Buzelis did to begin with as well. Just a whole lot of fun to watch. And the fact that we're seeing that he's coming out of LA. This is what, 2 months later, you know, looking like the real deals, already seeing huge improvements already. It only gets you hyped. You know, it can only get you hyped. So one difference, well, let me read this beforehand. Of course, they're talking about Ayo Dosunmu. Of course, he has a vlog, and it was him and Matas Buzelis. The reason why I don't have pictures of it is because they were trying. I wanted to show you how Matas Buzelis looked. It just wasn't a clear picture. Matas Buzelis is kind of like leaned in. You know, for me to do it right here is kind of. I'm sorry to be up in your face like that, but Matas Buzelis, the way he's sitting, you can't really get a clear look of his physique. You know, and he's wearing a tank top. You know, you can clearly see what the man looks like, but you know, you don't really get a clear view of how jacked, of how pretty much buff that they're saying that he looks right now. But him and Ayo was, of course, on the live stream talking to Patrick Williams, talking to Stacey King. You know, they had a whole lot of fun if you watch it through and through. He talked about, Matas Buzelis talked about guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. It was just a whole lot of fun, just a really, really cool vibe. And, you know, it spoke volumes. And, of course, they talked about it was a scene that resembled two bored teenagers, of course, pretty much on summer break, which I think is also funny. However, one difference, Matas Buzelis, who is 20 right now, no longer looks like a teenager. It has been 2 months since the regular season ended, and Buzelis looks more muscular. He looks like a guy who has spent some serious time in the weight room, and he has the medium TikTok to prove it. Yeah, he's a look. You already know guys that look. Trust me, I got an older. I ain't trying to call him out. I got an older brother like that. They're muscular, but they have to put that small shirt on. You know, they gotta put the size. They're always gonna get shirts that are a size smaller. You know, and they got to walk around like they're huge, they're jacked. You know, that's kind of what Matas Buzelis is looking like. He has the medium shirt on, you know, to prove it. And, of course, even better news for the organization, his physique isn't the only thing to make a major jump as well. He had a very good showing in LA. This is coming from Ayo himself. Said with a smirk when asked about Buzelis, and dausumu was underselling it by all accounts. So the fact that you even hear that he's underselling it, you know, can also just make you get that Birdman hand rub together. Like, what is going to happen, you know, once this man hits the floor when it's all said and done? You know, because a lot of people see us the sophomore year, you know, in your career as, you know, taking a little bit of a step back. And you've seen it a lot. And whether that's due to your stats just coming down just a little bit, you just playing a little bit underwhelming than what you were your rookie year, or just the fact that you just suffered a couple of injuries and just there was a couple of setbacks, you know, in your career. But honestly, I do think that Matas Buzelis, his sophomore season, is just going to be absolutely fire. Now, of course, rather than waiting until August or fall camp, Bulls vets, including Kobe White, Dasumu, and Patrick Williams, made plans months ago for the team to meet in Los Angeles in early June for an intense week of scrimmaging, lifting, and just hanging out with each other. And you got to love that. These are the veterans of the group, Kobe White and Patrick Williams alike, two guys that you definitely want to see improve. Kobe White, we've always been seeing improvement. Patrick Williams, you got to put a star there. Definitely want to see some improvement out of you. And the fact that they're actually making the effort to go there, first off, the bond that they have, the team chemistry, of course, has always been on point. I never once thought, the players on the Chicago Bulls hated each other, at least when, Nikola Vucevic and Bobby Portis was on the squad. But outside of that, I never once thought, these guys, there's a dislike. There's a couple players that possibly just don't get along, or there's not chemistry there, friction or anything of that nature. I mean, we can even go looking at Billy Donovan and Zach Lavine, when Zach Lavine is murmuring on the court, when you have guys pretty much voicing their discretions about Billy Donovan's calls, Billy Donovan's decisions making, and things of that nature. Even then, we talked about Billy Donovan not even losing the locker room, with more instances than one. So never once thought, this team is going to go out there and be, just all for one, all for one in this situation, just wanted to play by themselves and, just being any selfishness, just any type of selfishness in the organization. And I do like that with Chicago. And they're young. That's what the best part about it, too, is they're young as well. One player who dominated this week was Matas Buzelis. That's why Dausumu has raised the bar on the 6'10 forward going into year 2, even daring to put that bar in the same stratosphere as former league MVP and NBA champion Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, look, I did enough Matas Buzelis glazing, for the first, 6 minutes. I think this is where Ayo kind of loses me here. Now, look, brother. Look, it's like, I love me Matas Buzelis. I do think the ceiling is high. I do think, I do like where Dasumu is even going with this. But even then, to put him up there with Giannis Antetokounmpo now, when he's in year 2, I do think that's saying a whole lot. He goes on to say, Matas is a hard worker, a tremendous worker. He loves the work. I have high praise for him, high expectations for him. I'm seeing him in person, him getting stronger. He's starting to realize how strong he is and how he's able to dominate. I know Giannis is a Hall of Famer, top 20, top 30 player of all time, but Matas has a chance to really dominate the game like that because he's 6'10", 6'11". And as he continues to get stronger, he continues to get in the weight room, he's only going to get bigger. So I think he's going to continue to grow gradually like that in terms of him being able to finish, rebound, and him being able to dominate the game, and that's definitely going to show. Now, I do think in more ways than one, he could be a much better shooter. In more ways, he could be an improvement of Giannis in more ways than one. But to be that dominant as Giannis, and of course to bring your team that success as well, while carrying the team on your back. I'm not saying that Matas Buzelis can't do it. I do think that can be Matas Buzelis' ceiling. But, man, I do think that is early to call. I do definitely think that is early to call there. But can Matas Buzelis do it? Yes. I definitely think so. And that's just me being on the Matas Buzelis hype train right now. I do think he is definitely, right now, is a better shooter than Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that's just going to gradually grow. Now, his ISO ball, him playing 1v1, of course, the handles are on point. That's absolutely amazing. I love watching him on the offensive side. Now, of course, how is that going to reflect on the defensive side? Is he going to be the force down low, as Giannis can be at times as well? Giannis does hold a lot, for in the game. I do think Giannis, on both sides of the floor can do some damage. Matas Buzelis, I do think on the offensive side is just absolutely gnarly. If he's going to be a one-man wrecking ball, he can. If you put the ball in his hands and you let him, he can dominate. You can put the rock in his hands. Is that going to reflect on the defensive side? Can he come there and contribute as well? Yes, he can contribute. Do I think it is up there to the level of Giannis Antetokounmpo? Not quite. But right now, the ceiling is just absolutely insane for Matas Buzelis. And the fact that we're hearing this now, it does get me on the hype train. It does want me to see a whole lot more for Matas Buzelis. Not even a whole lot more, just more from Matas Buzelis. I was like, I think he's done more than enough last season. I think he almost gave me a heart attack last season watching him play. So even going on, quite the trajectory that Buzelis will have to take. But so far, so good. Before Giannis was Giannis, he was a skinny 10th overall pick. excuse me, 15th overall pick, who averaged 6.8 points and 4.4 rebounds as a rookie for the Bucks. And by year 4, he started to pop as something special. And by year 6, he was a problem for the rest of the league, which is why I say this isn't necessarily too crazy for Matas Buzelis. I think it's crazy to say now, because right now I don't think Matas Buzelis can do it all by himself, as we've seen Giannis do it on numerous occasions when Chris Middleton was down, when Brook Lopez was down as well, from an injury and old age. You're just seeing Giannis Antetokounmpo on the floor having to do it himself in more ways than one. This is even before Damian Lillard, came to town. Can Matas Buzelis do that? Look, it's only time will tell. Only time will tell at this point in time. But I'm down for the hype train. I'm ready to see what Matas Buzelis is wearing to do when it's all said and done. So right now, just looking at it, Buzelis is coming off of a rookie campaign where he averaged 8.6 points and 3.5 rebounds. Showed that he was an outside threat by hitting 36% from 3 and flashes of being a serious rim protector as well. And that's what I'm saying, just flashes of it in terms of when you're looking at Giannis. Now, Giannis is just, you seen how muscular he is, and you seen the force he is down low, and everything that he does is with power. And that's where I'm getting at with Matas Buzelis. We haven't just seen that just yet because we only seen his rookie year, which is why I'm on the seesaw of, man, I would love to put him in that room of Giannis. I'm just not ready to go there yet. I'm ready to see what he looks like in year 2 to make that comparison. And Ayo, he's looking at it right now. He's on the floor with him. He's working out with him, which is why he's bringing it up to the forefront right now. And also just hoping that he stays in good health as well, Buzelis, and keeping him on the floor so we can see that. It's just pretty much the sky is the limit for the man. An argument can be made that he's already ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo, with both of them also possessing an uncanny ability to put the ball on the floor and attack the rim quickly, which of course is the best part about both guys' game. Of course, Dasumu, who considers himself a student of the game, doesn't throw comparisons around lightly, but with Buzelis' natural ability and now the addition of power and muscle, he's a headache for the opposition written all over him. Of course, he was the main guy I wanted them to draft this year, something he brought up as well a couple of days ago. His body transformation is one of the things that's surprising me, seeing him become more powerful as he continues to get stronger and he continues to finish better at the rim. He's going to understand that there are very limited people that are able to stop him. Once he gains that confidence, he can shoot, he can put it on the floor, it's going to be over. So, which is why you get the flip-flop from the boy himself. Because once we start seeing it come on the forefront, once we start seeing him on the floor year 2, once we start seeing the power, once we start seeing more of the explosiveness, we already saw the great work, the great shooting, the fun shooting, the amazing dunks, the rim protecting as we saw, but we saw flashes of it. If we saw a whole lot more, I'm ready to make that Giannis comparison, which is why I'm just seesawing. I can see it. I 100% can see the Giannis comparison. I just want to see Matas Buzelis put the ball on the floor first. I just want to see proof. That's all it is. Do you want to see proof, or are you already sold? Are you already sold that Matas Buzelis can have a Giannis Antetokounmpo career, or are you like me? Are you pretty much on the fence, just waiting to see him put the ball on the floor first before you can make that judgment? Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.